Now we're live.
Not yet.
It says recording in 48 seconds.
We got problems here. I don't know what's going on.
Now it's just me.
Okay. Are we live? You there?
I'm here, yeah. I can still hear your musical.
Oh, okay. Okay. I left the studio and came back in again, and I think we're good.
You did. You left me on your show by myself.
You handled that very well.
I was nervous.
Well, we are week 2 of the second round. Ethan Jett wins. That dude is excited.
Very excited.
And anyway, we got 2 guys coming on tonight. Well, we hope they're both on other podcasts because they're so popular.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll bring the crowd with them.
I've actually got on my other screen, I'm watching Chad Hoover talk like this on Wendell Fishing.
Yeah.
And Jake, I don't know which podcast he's on, but he's going to join us as soon as he's done. So right now it's just you and I, bud.
That's all right. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm all packed up.
Yeah. Tell us about your Lake Fork trip number 2 within the last month, right? You're heading tomorrow?
I haven't been to Lake Fork. I hadn't been to Lake Fork for a few years, really. And then now I'm there twice in 3 weeks. And during the spawn,
sweet.
I mean, doesn't get any better than that. That we had of course, the Bassmaster Championship there.
Right.
And that was fun. But the weather was kind of dicey, but this one is the All-American of Joshua Booth started that a few years ago. And this year I thought, you know what, I got to jump into that one. That's a good one. And it's kind of a regional series, and he's picked some really good lakes at good times. So we have Jake in the green room now. We'll bring you out here,
nice.
Jake. And then anyway, he's got Lake Fork, La Crosse, Wilson Lake, Kansas. Golly, I'm trying to think where the other ones are. I think he's got one in Missouri. I just know I'm going to La Crosse, Wilson, and that one because you have to go to 3 to be in the AOI race. Not that I'm going to be in an AOI race, but it's you got to try. But
you never know.
We've got I think 24 already signed up. Who knows? There might be some more. And it's a one-day event. We got a bunch of guys at a house, and we're old friends, and it's going to be fun. But tomorrow I am actually driving to another lake north of there to go fishing, at another lake there, and then I'm going to probably spend a night somewhere between there and Lake Fork, and then fish Lake Fork for 2 days to check things out, and then fish the tournament, and then come back home. And
nice.
So another adventure. And in the meantime,
I don't know why you keep pausing, Marty. You keep pausing.
I do?
Yeah. I don't know if that's just me, or ask maybe somebody if they're getting this in the audience as well, because you keep pausing on me.
You guys can help us out. Let us know if I'm pausing. Zach, look at this, man. Zach Millison left Wendell's Fishing Podcast for this.
But is that a good thing or is that a crappy thing?
Yeah. Zach says it seems fun to him. Thanks, Zach. Now, Zach, you need to bring about 40 more people with you. That'd be great.
Yeah. Thanks, Zach.
Tonight's giveaway. We might have a big giveaway. We might be giving away a car. Who knows? I don't know.
Last week we had a huge giveaway where Chris came up from Hoodoo. Yeah. And actually, if Tanya is on here, I'm not sure if she's on there right now.
He's on.
But Tanya, there you go. So Tanya actually messaged me, if you guys remember last week. She was like, I didn't get my light kit. I didn't get my dehooker yet. And then last week, Chris from Hoodoo sent her, or she won again. Genius. But she won the 48-liter cooler. And all 3 of them arrived today at her house. I even have pictures on my phone of all 3 of those prizes arriving to Tanya today.
Wow. Christmas in April.
Yeah. Awesome.
There you go, Tanya. Nice. That's nice. She probably felt pretty good about it.
Michael Thomas, I would like to tell you that'll give me nightmares, that picture today. I do not like the guy from Scream.
What picture's that?
Where it says his face there. Michael Thomas says.
Oh, his face, yeah.
Yeah,
Michael,
that's
Michael,
Scream.
you got to get a fish picture on there, Michael.
Yeah, get a fish picture. Come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for joining. How was the Wendell Fishing podcast there you were chatting about?
Me? Or Jake?
Nope. That Chad that just came on there, or whoever just did.
Oh, that was
his son. Well, if your son painted it, then it's cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Still a little scary.
That was Zach that came over from the other podcast.
Right.
But we're going to get going here in a second with this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But you know, I was telling you earlier, there was a guy. I don't know if he made this kayak, but guys, we're going to see. We have not seen the end of new kayaks. You know, I look at when we first started this, there was 2 or 3 brands out there, models or whatever, and now there's like billions of them. It seems like of types of kayaks. But do you think? Let me ask you this, Keith. Do you think there's a company out there in the works creating something new that we don't even know right now? A new company?
Do I think so?
Yeah.
Oh, I know so. Have you looked at my garage?
Yeah. Now, by the way, the Crescent Smalley comes out tomorrow or the next day. I got to see that firsthand. I touched it. It's a great throw and go type kayak.
I think it's awesome, but for a guy like me that's 6'4", I won't fit in it.
Yeah, me either. 6'2", 210. It's going to be a little bit tight. So I have the Crescent Shoaly. But there was a guy that
But it looks awesome.
It does. It looks great. It's easy to unload and load back up. Put a motor on if you want. So get this. This popped up on my Instagram today. Greg Nosar, who ran the KBBT. This is right when the pandemic hit, and he had this like bracket across the country, and you could enter it.
Yeah,
I had fun with that, man. That was a blast. And it was one-on-one with another guy, maybe different state. He had regions and so forth. Well, he apparently has designed a new kayak called the Daytona, and it looks really good. And it's a fin drive. It's a fin drive or a pedal drive kayak. I'm going to find out more about that, but it looks pretty good and well designed. So who knows?
Marty, before we get along to, like, we're leaving Jake in the green room right now, so
yeah, I know.
Let's bring him in. Give
Okay,
him some props here before Chad is going to jump in here soon.
He's got his arms crossed like he's going to board my boat.
Yeah. He's like, what the hell? I just got off a podcast and now I'm waiting again. We got to bring Jake in.
Here, though. I got to get him in. I don't even know how to get him in here. Here we go. I'll get him in there. I'll get him in. There he is.
There we go.
Made it.
Hey, what's going on, man? You were probably training some kids there.
Yeah.
No, I just got off of another podcast and tried really hard to be on time. Almost made it.
You were here.
Yeah. Well, whatever. Then we made you wait 15 minutes anyway.
Yeah.
That's called that's the kayak jack penalty box.
I'm quiet.
Yeah.
So right, hey, Jake, I got a question for Jake though. In watching the college national championship last night and those athletes, I mean, this, how hard they go, how hard, I mean, how do they not get injured? Or is it your strength and conditioning programs are that intense that they are just that in such incredible shape?
I'd say some of it is like they're freaks of nature. I mean, college athletes are incredible athletes.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of injuries that happen later in the season. You don't see them as often. A lot of times you'll see the more major things happen earlier in the year.
Yeah.
But the advancements in strength and conditioning and how much technology is used in sports science has really put cut down a lot of the injuries. So, like I'm sure you've heard of like workload management. There's like little GPS sensors that athletes wear now
Right.
to monitor how far they go, how fast they go, how high they jump
Wow.
every time they change direction. So it monitors all the movements, all the work that they do, and the magnitude of it. So you can kind of plan weeks out and progress over a longer period of time. Or
Wow.
if a guy plays 40 minutes in a basketball game, but on average he's playing 20, then his workload will be higher. So next week we got to cut him down a little bit to adjust for it. Um, so there's been a lot of advancements in our field in the past
Right.
5 to 10 years that are really trickling down to the NCAA now that are pretty impactful.
All right.
So
So
those injuries that happen more often at the beginning of the season are because they're just coming in kind of a little more raw, and then once they're under your wing and like you're training more and moving
So
through,
like
like getting more protection and training and blah blah blah.
yeah,
Then
kind of
they
like that. But a lot of it's like
yeah
early in the year, they don't have many opportunities to hit the intensity.
yeah, and
That
then it's
over the
full on.
summer. So like over the summer, everybody goes home. Even if you go play pickup basketball, you're not going to play
Right.
at the intensity level of
yeah,
of a
yeah.
of a real game. You don't, even if you get back for summer practices, like just practicing in front of your coach is going to have a little bit more nerves to it than playing pickup at the park or something like that. So
Yeah.
Right.
um, early in the season, when you hit those high intensities for the first time, if your body's not prepared for it, or if you progressed your overall volume too quickly, it can put you in a bad spot. Some stuff's unpredictable and some stuff's you know unavoidable. But the non-contact injuries, I think, have definitely gone down a lot in more recent years.
Huh.
Nice.
I look back. Uh, of course, I was a college athlete, Jake, of all things, if you believe that.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, and our strength conditioning program was a bar with one coffee can on each side that had been filled with cement, and that was our weights that we used. This is
Man.
college, you know, and that's go to your weight program. I did some curls and I was done. I was like, whatever, and nobody taught us anything. And I remember I got injured one time my entire career in college, and I couldn't go to practice. And I showed up the next day. My coach just chewed me out in front of everybody and got mad and everything, and I just couldn't move. And I pulled my hamstring, and I show up. And I said, I couldn't even walk. And he goes, that's not an excuse. He told me he was going to be off the team. And I mean, he was livid, but I was kind of the whipping child anyway for the team. But, but anyway, he goes, you could have saw the trainer. And I go, we don't have a trainer. He goes, I'm the trainer. I'm like, oh my
Oh my
God.
god!
And, and, and so I never missed a practice again in my life.
Yeah.
so, so,
Oh man, you
there's
couldn't
no
get away
point.
with that now.
Yeah,
That
no, I
coach would
know
be
how
gone so
time.
fast.
Yeah, how
Yeah, for sure.
you would say, what would you say?
I said that you could not get away with that now. That coach would be out of there pretty quick.
Oh yeah, but he was a great. Don't get me wrong, he was a great
Yeah,
coach.
yeah.
Most out of us.
Well, I mean that's a different time. I mean, I'm not too
And
far
he
removed
totally
from
pushed
college
Marty into
athletics.
becoming a kayak fisherman.
Yeah,
What's that?
yeah,
He pushed Marty into becoming a kayak fisherman.
Yeah.
yeah. There you go. Yeah, yeah.
But listen, I'm not too far removed from college athletics myself. I stopped playing, and my last season was in 2017.
Uh-huh.
And even now, as a coach, I'm like, look, sometimes I'm like, come on, like just push through it. You'll be
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Right.
But
yeah,
but like
yeah,
as a
yeah,
professional, I know better. But as a
yeah,
competitor, I'm like, just do it. You'll be
Don't be
okay.
a
Just,
yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
We did too. There were no excuses, and you just did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of that way with this kayak fishing. I mean, we're pushing it to its limits. What I'm concerned about is like what I saw this past weekend, and I don't want to say they were wrong or right or whatever, but you put your motor on your kayak and then you decide you're going to go full speed through, high seas, so to speak. You're asking for danger because they're not built for that.
Right.
And we're really pushing the limits. I know Chad's talking about dual motors tonight on another podcast. And, we're pushing the limits on this, just like we push the limits with athletes. But you got to be careful because at some point something's going to break. and we definitely don't want to have anybody get hurt, out of the deal because of that. And that's like these rigs you guys have created, these builds. Obviously you're looking at what's in the best interest for you. So Jake, for you, what have you done to maybe push your kayak to its limit with your kayak?
Brought it within its weight capacity of within like a pound of it.
Wow.
Oh,
um,
really?
yeah, I mean, I remember when I was going to add a second battery, a second 100 amp hour battery, I literally weighed everything that I put on it, including my body weight. And
A second 100 amp?
yeah, so I've got two 100 amp hour batteries on the
Yeah.
kayak.
Okay.
So yeah, so like adding that extra 33 pounds, I think it was.
Yeah,
That's a big addition for
for sure.
a kayak that's already got a ton of stuff on it. Um, so when I did that, I weighed everything. I weighed my black pack. How much does all my tackle weigh? How much are my rods and the motor and the batteries and all that? And I think I was this close to going over the weight capacity, but I didn't go over. I'm technically still underneath it.
Uh,
So.
so at some point, you think of like in the old days with lead batteries, how much they weighed, and I look at a football player when I played football. When you put on your football gear, we weighed an extra 40, 50 pounds.
Mhm.
Now you
Yeah,
might weigh 5 to 8 more pounds
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
with what they have. I was the guy that you trim down your pads to the minimum so that you could have a little bit lighter weight, or take something off, so
Or move a little bit better. Yeah.
yeah, the same is true in my kayak. I carry two 12-volt batteries. That's it, and I go the whole day with that. Now, I'm sorry, the torpedo battery's a little bigger, but I don't like to carry that much with me. But then obviously you want to have enough power for the day with what you're going to do. But I also can rely on the pedals. So do you think that in the future, even you, Keith, you might know because you see the products that are coming, are we
yeah.
going to see something lighter with power? That could
In
make a
terms of batteries,
yeah.
I
I
mean,
don't.
like the latest Newport, this bracket sponsor, that new battery that they have out is freaking amazing,
Mhm.
but it's still heavy. I don't think like
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to get much lighter than that. That's like top edge technology.
Okay.
Like that Newport battery can fit inside your Blackpack 1616.
Mm. Well, it's kind of like the Apex kayak.
Insane.
That thing weighs 5 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also, if you hit a rock with it, you're done.
Yeah.
you
Or you
know.
can get into the Oru kayak, which is like basically made of paper, and
Yeah. Yeah. True.
don't think you won't really be going far on a tournament with that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
it's
don't
So
a
know.
different
I think if
to eat
anybody, I,
again
I
to
think
each their own, right?
I think if anybody got a kayak that or loaded it up with lighter weight stuff, they'd still find ways to kind of push it to its
yeah.
capacity.
Yeah.
So I
Oh,
mean,
100%.
Yeah.
like I don't add anything else to my kayak right now because there's no more room for it and because I'm at the weight capacity. But if I still had an
Absolutely.
extra spare 100 pounds to fill up on it, I'm sure I'd find some things and I'm like, oh, sure, I could use that.
Yeah. You would do it if you could, right? It's like a
Yeah.
kid with an ice cream cone, like, I could fit one more scoop on for sure.
Yeah.
And if you can't, then you don't.
Yeah. Now, if I can't get to my screen, guys. Hold on a second. Are you there?
What screen are you looking for?
Oh, I'm going to share my screen here to you.
It looks like it's like in the green. Oh, there it is.
There it is. Yeah. I'm bringing it in here.
Yeah.
So let's look at Jake's kayak because maybe he'll make it. I don't know. But
I'm going to pull up Wendell Fishing right now and see if Chad's still on it on my other screen. But you guys keep chatting and I'll check this
okay,
out.
so there's the front view. You have just like what kind of trailer is that?
Just a basic. What is it, like a caravan trailer?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I just picked that up last year, but I do have one in the works right now with expedition trailers that
Uh-huh.
I'm really excited to start using. That's gonna be pretty cool when they finish it up.
Nice.
So
And
they've
that's
got
yeah, that's a vibe kayak.
It's the
Yeah.
Shearwater 125.
Yeah.
that's right.
I have
Yeah.
that same kayak and I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. It's been awesome. I've
Yeah,
had a
it's
few of them now, and it's it's been perfect for everything that I need it for. Yeah, something I just talked about on the other podcast is there's a lot of different kayak brands, a lot of different kayak options, and a lot of times I don't think one is necessarily better than another, just the kayak itself, but it's more suiting your needs. And especially when I lived in Florida, I thought the Shearwater was a better kayak in Florida than much of anything else that was out there because it's more like low profile. I thought it went through the grass so much easier, and I liked getting into some thick grass and some sloppy areas. And um, I could paddle right through it. I could pull the drive out, paddle right through it like easily. Where
right.
I'd see guys in other kayaks just like pedaling or trying to force themselves through it and not moving at all. So um, it's been awesome for me. I loved it in Florida. I still love it in South Carolina too. But I think it
Man,
especially was
I use it
advantageous
up.
down there.
I use it up here in the Columbia River in Canada, and
Mhm.
I've used it on the coast off Vancouver Island, and
Hmm.
yeah, it's a great kayak for sure.
Now, not to
Yeah.
change the subject too much, Joshua Booth, he's the guy, Keith, that runs the All American Series. He runs the Moyak. They just had a big event last weekend. They all
Yeah,
flew
yeah,
in there in that one. But he's asking, and he's like, if you're looking at tournament directors, he's like one of the nation's
right.
best. Uh,
Yep.
are we heading towards a time where tournaments start to limit gear? Example would be one motor, two graphs, two batteries are allowed for safety reasons. What do you guys think?
I think personally, like I guess minus the safety reasons, I think tournaments are going to start making all these own rules just to make their tournaments unique from other tournaments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this one doesn't have this one doesn't have that. This one is allowed everything.
Yeah. Well,
That's kind of the way it's more going.
yeah.
I mean,
I
most
think
of the
I think we've
kayaks are
seen that
super
before
safe.
though.
Yeah,
I think we've seen that before with Hobie, the Bass Open Series and the Bassmaster Series and
yeah,
KBF. Like Hobie tried to set themselves apart by staying no motors, and I think it
yeah.
hurt their attendance the year before they decided to allow motors. Was it last year?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
on one hand, I think some trails might try to set themselves apart by doing things like that, but it'll probably
Yeah.
hurt them more than it'll help them.
Well, I
Well,
don't
like,
know. The
what's it?
doggy paddle.
Just like Marty's
Yeah,
doggy paddle. Marty, here's another chance for the doggy paddle.
yeah. The doggy paddle. No sonar, no pedals, no motors. Paddle only. The entry fee is a bag of dog food or treats or cat food. Goes to the local Hearts United, and we're going to give away a Hoodoo kayak and a
And
Benny
I
J.
first place
love
is
it.
100 grand.
100 grand.
Yeah.
How many guys would show up for that?
Gene would say no if I have
for
to paddle,
for 100
even if it's a
grand
100 grand.
or
For 100 grand on a 60-acre lake.
oh, I'm coming.
Yeah, yeah,
I know
yeah. Well,
I
you're a
am.
straight, you're a strength and conditioning coach. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're talking about normal people.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
So just
I
so you
remember.
guys know, I'm watching Chad's still on Wendell fishing up here. I'm watching him like
Yeah.
talk nonstop.
Yeah.
I don't think he's joining us. I'm not sure.
Chad gets asked a lot about the two motors, and it is a safety factor. It really is. And the other thing, to me, I, I'm not against it for it, whatever, but you might as well go ahead and buy a boat at that point. I mean, really, because
Kayaks are boats.
yeah, I know they are, but I'm just
I feel
saying,
like that line keeps getting pushed back every time
yeah,
there's an advancement in
yeah,
kayaks. It's like, oh,
yeah,
you got a pedal drive? Why don't you just get a boat? Oh,
yeah,
you put a
yeah,
motor on it? Oh,
right,
you got
right,
Dude,
two
try
screens?
yeah,
try working in media.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll bet. Uh,
yeah.
so yeah, Ethan Jett's on here, by the way. He said hi.
Hi,
What's
Ethan.
up?
So guys, we're not actually giving away 100 grand on that tournament.
Wait, Marty. Are you talking about Ethan Jett, the
Yes,
first Yakoff competitor to make it through to the semifinals?
yes,
That
Never heard
Ethan
of him.
Jett?
yeah.
Wow.
He, he's in the final. He's like the Houston of the Final Four.
Yeah.
So he's
Tough.
gonna crash and burn, is what you're saying.
I don't know. I don't know.
I know Tanya is on here watching, Tanya Allman, who got those prizes today. She sent me a little note today about how she got involved with the Yakoffs. And it was actually through her new Facebook friend, Ethan Jett.
Really?
That's how it started, which is very cool.
And now she owns a brand new Hoodoo cooler and a
And now
Guardian.
she won a Hoodoo cooler and a Guardian Angel light kit. She has the hot pink dehooker, the
Wow.
new one. Yeah.
Okay.
Man, I got the Guardian Angel light kit
Uh-huh.
just in time to get out last weekend.
Yeah.
That thing is sweet.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
How
awesome.
I was actually talking to Ethan the other day about how strong that magnet is. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it fits perfectly on my kayak in like the bow mounted one. Like there's this little weird, not
Uh-huh.
weird, but it's it's like the paddle holder. So obviously I don't use that anymore with the motor, but there's just like this little slot, so it fits in there perfectly right on the bow.
Hmm.
And
Nice.
yeah, I didn't have to mount it any special way.
Yeah.
But it was cool seeing all the different mounts that it came with and all the different options you
So,
have for putting it up.
so I'll tell you this, Jake. I've got two kids that ride their bikes all over the town and blah, blah, blah. Those lights go from on your kayak to on your truck to on your trailer to on your handlebars of your bicycle to your wife running. They have mounts for everything.
Mhm.
Really?
And it's like super cool, and they're so bright, and you can like set them in different things. But my wife runs marathons,
Yeah.
and yeah, she uses them. My kids ride their bikes; they're on their handlebars.
It would
Those
be
are
really
some cool
cool if I
things.
was still a principal and I could mount it on my head and have the red light going on and off when I'm making a call to a classroom.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
like
like a woo, 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 woo.
that would have been fun, man. Doggone it.
Yeah, that would be totally fun.
Hey,
Just
Tanya has a
turn it on
question.
anytime you're writing a kid at detention.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Oh, Tanya has a question for you, Jake.
yeah, yeah.
What's
What's
up?
your favorite lure to throw during pre-spawn, and do you have a go-to color?
Ooh, oh man, asking for the juice.
Oh, yeah.
I love a chatterbait any time of year.
There you go.
Yeah, it's hard to beat it. It'll catch fish.
Yeah.
Last weekend I was on Lake Hartwell catching them on a jerk bait, but I actually think I was catching mostly post spawn fish. I think I was getting a lot of fry garters, but pre spawn, I really love the chatterbait. Um, God, that's what I try to force that down the fish's throat any chance I can. like
Yeah.
that's
The other
that's a
thing
that's
is,
a big go to one for me.
do you throw red early?
No, I don't. I don't know why. I know red is something that
Mhm.
has worked for everybody for so long, and for some reason, it's just not something I can get much confidence behind. And
Really?
I don't. I still have success using other colors. So like red's just. I usually use some kind of shad pattern,
Mhm.
um, something shad, and in the past, I've seen it be equally successful. Actually, last year on Lake Murray. Like a crankbait also. So on Lake Murray for the KBF, I came in 10th place in the first tournament, but I was throwing a red crankbait that day on the first day, and
Mhm. Mhm.
caught my limit on that. But then the second
Nice.
day, cold front came through. Went to all the same spots. I was basically just hitting secondary points that had a little bit of grass on them, and couldn't get a bite in the same spots I was getting them the day before. So I worked my way further back up into a creek and changed to white and started getting bit on the white crankbait. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
I it's just not something I've ever used a lot. And I don't know. Yeah.
So,
I know it works. I just
oh yeah.
don't
So,
give it the time that it deserves.
got to give the bass what they want. Now, for this is for Tanya. Tanya, if you go to bassmaster.com and type in kayak top baits, you will see the top baits used, and that was during kind of a spawnish time at Lake Fork. I wrote that article, and the baits that were
I was
used,
just gonna say you wrote that article, right?
yeah, they were quite intriguing. What guys were using, and then also if you go to the Kayak Adventure series, there's another
Yeah.
article there where we had a tournament just a couple days later in Texas, and that has some baits on it that might help you with determining what you want to use during your pre-spawn where you live. Because she lives up north, so obviously it's still pre-spawn there. Here we go, Nicholas Beltran. We're answering questions. We got a lot of people on
This
here,
is
man.
this is this is awesome.
Yeah, with all the innovative stuff coming out for kayaks, all the gadgets, I would honestly love to see just a paddle kayak. There you go.
I will answer that question for you, Nicholas.
Yeah.
Vibe just came out with a brand new kayak called the Hydra, which is exactly, well, not exactly, but based off the Ocean Kayak Trident 13, the 13-foot model. That is a paddle kayak, and
Hmm.
it's kick ass.
It looks
Like
sick.
our editor at Rick Burnley at Kayak Angler can get or has every pretty much kayak that you could ever get in your life in his backyard, and he still buys the Trident 13s when he finds them on sale, like on eBay or whatever.
Wow.
That Hydra is sick. We showed pictures of it last week, right, Marty?
Yeah.
So that trip that I'm going up to on Sea Otter Lodge that Marty may be joining us with, we just
Maybe.
sent a Hydra. We just sent a Hydra up there to get some footage on it. It's not available till April 28th, but we've got one that we're going to be testing up there. So
Nice.
that's a paddle only kayak. Remember that name, the Hydra from Vibe. It's a sweet kayak that is mostly for paddling.
He said, thanks for the feedback. It was mostly meant for a tournament requirement or just so what he's saying is a paddle like what I've got, the doggy paddle, the paddle only tournament.
Right.
You know, you're gonna
Oh,
see
okay, gotcha.
yeah, Nicholas, you'll probably see more of those coming up because again, when you go to a lake, guys, Jake, I know you know this, you go to a lake, you see more paddlers than you see guy with motors. And they
Yeah.
go, "Hey, what are you doing? I'm a tournament." Well, I'd like to get in one, but I can't do what you guys are doing. I don't have all that kind of money to go buy all that stuff. And
Right,
so that's why we're offering, not because they can't afford it, but just because it's just simple and they can go out and have fun and catch fish,
right.
record it. That's okay,
Yeah.
Nicholas. It's
That's
all good.
that's
Uh,
so much about kind of where the kayak fishing competitive side has gone, where
yeah,
I
yeah,
was able to get into competitive kayak fishing because of local trails, and I had a paddle kayak that I
yeah,
could hold my own in. And
yeah.
now, like, even I've fished a lot more local stuff this year than I have in years
Mhm.
past, and everybody's got like an ultimate setup. So
Yeah,
for a teenage kid, somebody just getting
mhm,
out of high school or college trying to get into tournament fishing, like they've got to have that 10, 20 grand to
Yeah,
drop on a kayak to
yeah, yeah.
just get up on everybody's level.
Yeah,
And
I've got we have that league here with the kids and the adults, and the kids just kill it with the They're good. They are really good, mostly because they have learned to pick apart an area. Whether
Mhm.
they're moving a lot, they'll just go pick apart a little area until they get the big ones. They find the bigger ones. The other thing is, oh wait, there was another question here on that. What was your best kayak tournament moment while you were in Florida?
Ooh, probably. I mean, probably the first tournament that I ever won. It's probably my best tournament moment, I guess. Um, I got two that are pretty cool, but I guess the first tournament I won,
tell them both.
yeah. So the one is a quick story. I was doing like a live tournament. It was like a fun one-on-one tournament that was broadcast on Facebook, and like five, we were sitting in the green room just talking and waiting to actually start it, and we're out kind of like just starting to fish. And like first couple casts, I pulled in a 7 pounder before we even got it on before we got started off. So the show started with me holding a 7 pound fish for everybody to see. So
Nice.
that was
Pretty
pretty
cool.
cool.
That
But my
Go ahead.
first tournament win was on Lake Kissimmee, and it was a interesting day. We got out there. There was gators everywhere, like I hadn't seen out there when I was practicing. And your typical tournament, you go to all the places where you caught them in practice, and they weren't there anymore. So I was getting all cranky on the water. I was at a point where I was like, I was really enjoying tournament fishing, but I wasn't doing well in them. And being competitive, I just wanted to win so bad, and so I was getting frustrated, but not giving up, and just searching like crazy for grassy areas because on Kissimmee the grass changes so frequently with how much they spray out there.
Mm,
Um, anyways, stumbled across this area that had grass and just started throwing a spinnerbait, and ultimately uh, ended up catching my a 5 fish limit to put me in first place in about 20 minutes with maybe an hour to go in the
Wow.
tournament, and ended up holding up to get my my first tournament win.
Sweet.
Nice. So I was going to ask you, did you participate in the KBBT?
Yeah, I did the first one.
Yeah. Did we go against each other?
I don't know if we did. I think we might have talked about this in the last one. I don't remember though. I know I went against. We might have, because I made it to the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Oh shoot, I'm forgetting the guys. I remember the one guy I fished against from West Virginia, Mark Edwards. I fished against him in round one. I forget who I fished against in the second round, and then I fished against Conrad Benetti in.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
yeah,
those are the good old days.
that was funny. But yeah, he beat me in that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if we did.
Okay, I don't either. I just remember, like, here I was in Nebraska, and guys were like, "How is he catching them up in Nebraska?" But the thing is from April through November, it's pretty good here. But then in Florida and Texas, your best states, sometimes in the summer it's hard to catch them because it's so hot.
Oh yeah, like it can be a rough day out there
Yeah.
if you go out in Florida in the summer.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I think
Oh, I think we got Chad coming in.
there he is. He's out. He's a loss for words. He
texted me and said I'm in the back end.
That's what we call this in the industry. That's the back end when you're backstage.
Back end. Anyway, so
I was watching you on my other monitor there, Chad, and I saw you were done.
You were at
Coops. Welcome to your second podcast right away.
Thank you. It's usually how it happens. The time is wrong in my calendar, so when I put them in, there's no conflict, and then somebody texts me, "Looking forward to the podcast," and I'm like, "Oh crap!" So I appreciate you guys working with me.
Yeah, we've had a lot of questions, fishing related for Jake, and it's gone pretty well. And and we also had the dual motor debate before you got on, and
I just had that on the other podcast, so it worked out.
That's where we carried it over.
What we were chatting about,
and we outlawed it already here, so it's all good.
What did y'all settle on?
What
was the settle on the dual motor debate?
What we were just talking about it. We were talking about, a lot of people were asking, would the KBF have a man-powered division?
Marty, last year, I spent $1,500 on trophies, and I actually had a paddle only division. And I got one entry at one of the 5 trail stops in the paddle only division.
Wow.
So they won.
Yeah, I've done paddle only online, and nobody signs up. What you generally have is a bunch of people who don't compete, who have opinions on how competitions should go.
Yeah.
But then when you have the competitions, they don't do it.
Right.
So you've got to learn, and I've really had to learn in this industry, you cannot fall victim to chasing the vocal minority over the silent majority. And the silent majority have spoken by purchasing boats with motors on them, by better paddle sales going downhill, mediocre paddle sales going uphill. The boats have gotten wider and less paddleable.
Yeah.
You either have to pedal them or paddle them. Now, I do think that pendulum's about to swing back in the other direction.
Yeah.
But the paddle only argument happens all the time. Every charity tournament that's paddle only has seen a diminishing attendance over the last 10 years. Again, I think it's a vocal minority thing, but I think more often than not, it's just like the forward-facing sonar people that argue that complain about forward-facing sonar. I'll give you this challenge. Click on anybody that argues about forward-facing sonar, and if you scroll less than 3 pages and see a fish picture, I'll screenshot it and send it to me, because I've yet to do it. Of the most outspoken people in the world, anti-forward-facing sonar, if you click on their account, they don't even have a fish picture, much less a forward-facing sonar. Or no, they don't even.
Now, what if, Chad, If we
But
give away $100,000 here at Duck Creek, 55-acre lake, paddle only tournament, $100,000, how many people would show up?
A lot. That's a different creature. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
and I would like to say this too, like what you're doing, Marty, with like your paddle only competition, because of the way everything else is going within the industry everywhere else.
Yeah.
That's just a fun thing that you're doing to raise money for animal shelters and dogs and cats and rabbits and squirrels or whatever. But it's a fun thing, and it's just like, let's do this for a day, and it's an amazing opportunity to kind of make fun of where everything else is gone, because it's going that way. But you can still say, we're doing this paddle only thing, and we're going to do it, and here's the prizes. It's going to a good cause, and it's totally worthwhile.
You know what I think is funny? I think it's funny how many people chime in and say, I think, or I feel, or whatever. Okay,
but
cool. Then do that. But by and large, the people that think and feel
never do.
I don't want to get into politics, but I'll tell you this. I was at the Red Crest show this weekend. They had some big protests. So I go outside just to get outside, to get out of the air conditioned, like your eyes start to get dry. You know, that stale trade show. I wanted to walk outside. It was a little cool, a little crisp.
Mm-hmm.
I was also going outside to see what the weather looked like because we were thinking about trying to get on the water. Mm-hmm. And we had those bad storms that were rolling through.
Right.
Right.
And I walk out, and right outside the door is always like the smoker group, right outside the door. Like no matter where you go. And there was this group of guys standing there, and they had like their sandwich signs and stuff on. And I was talking to one of the protesters, and I said, "So what are y'all protesting?" He said, "Trump." I said, "But what are you protesting?" "Oh, Trump and Elon." "What? But what?" He's like, "Shit, I don't know. They gave me $100 to be here, so I'm protesting whatever they want me to." So what's kind of funny is I was like, wait a second. Like, you're out here and you don't even know what you're protesting, and somebody's paying you to protest. I actually believe a lot of times in the comment section, there are certain people that just have the mindset of being counterculture to whatever is the thing.
Yeah.
And that is their tribe that they belong to, as I belong to this tribe, right? I belong to this group.
Yeah.
You know, I was flying about 6 months ago, and I'm going to share this little analogy because these are the people I see in my mind when I see these anti-anything commentaries on social media. So I'm sitting at the airport, and this girl's got black eyeliner. Her hair's dyed black. She's got black fingernails. She's got like a ring on every finger. She's got the shirt, the pants with the little rings on them and stuff, the striped socks, the Doc Martens. I mean, she's got on the thing. And I was looking past her to see the what do you call that thing with all the flight information board? The flight information board on the back wall behind her. So I'm kind of looking through her, and she like leans into my field of view and said, "You stare at me because I'm different. I stare at you because you're all the same." And I went, "Are you talking to me?"
You're like, I want to see when my flight's leaving.
She's like, "Yeah, you're staring at me because I'm different." And it just one of those times.
I heard when girls think guys are cute, they're mean to you.
Well, she probably had daddy issues, and I look like her daddy.
I have a very true story about that about my wife, actually.
So I'm going to tell you.
I won't bring it up tonight, but
normally I would just blow somebody off like this, but she was very self-assured, and I was in the ruin somebody's self-assuredness mood this morning because I hadn't had any coffee, and she was being very matter-of-fact. I said, "Honey, you are not different. You have on the same uniform as all the other different people. You've got the black eyeliner, the black nails, the rings, you bought your clothes from the different people uniform shop. You followed the script. Me and this dude right here are more different than you and the other goth person who you look just like. Y'all all shop at Spencer's. You got the same damn place that you buy your stuff. So if you want to be different, dye your hair purple, tattoo half your face, not the whole thing, put earrings in your freaking throat and in your top of your hand, not in the same places. but don't act like you're different. There is 0.00 originality in what you came up with. You got that shit from Party City, dressed like a goth girl, uniform store. And then she's like,
Plus, Chad, different is not what you do with your appearance. Different is what you do with your actions and your life.
so
That's
anyway, she
different.
did the like, and got up and took her stuff and like moved somewhere else, right? Fine, whatever. Now I ain't got to stare at you or stare at me.
She picked the wrong guy to say that to.
In my mind, that's what the anti-forward facing sonar, anti-motor, you should just buy a boat. That's what those people are, because by and large, when I click on their account, that's what they are. They don't have any fishing, they don't have any hunting, they don't have any outdoor. They're mostly memes. Here's what you get with people who have predominantly memes on their profile. And if I'm saying this and you're somebody that has predominantly memes on your profile, I apologize, but let me tell you what you're projecting to the world. People who only share memes can't come up with funny shit to say themselves, or thoughtful shit or motivational shit to say themselves. So they just screenshot and parrot what other people say.
Mm-hmm.
So by and large, if you look at these people who are anti something in the fishing world, they say the exact same things over and over again, the same way so it's almost like they're the paid protester. Here are your talking points. You're not allowed to believe anything other than this. Now just go post it.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, that's where we're at with all that crap.
Mm-hmm.
So with the 2-motor thing, we are genuinely going to have to let some more time elapse, because in my opinion, and mine's the one that matters just because I run an organization where we get to decide, we're not there yet from enough of the biomass that it makes sense.
Using it, yeah.
We're not there from enough of the watercraft being capable enough to perform the carrying capacity of both units and the associated batteries and stuff for it to be there. And more importantly, I'm just not sure I want to push the threshold to where you've got to have the bigger boat to have the bigger motors. You got to have the bigger batteries. You got to. And then by the time that's all said and done, now you have to have a trailer, not just you could have one. All of those things, it doesn't just 2x your cost and the barrier to entry, it 10x's it. You know what I mean? So to me, you can use the 2 motors for pre-fishing. The one thing that I am considering with the 2-motor thing is I'm considering allowing it for some of the virtual stuff, but saying when you get into the premium competitions, the national championship, the challenge championship, the 10, then it's back to standard tournament rules, so that you can go out there on your own time with your own gear, experimenting with the concept, still saying you can only use 1 motor at a time. And realistically, there isn't an advantage of having both of them going at the same time. They don't add together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that is a consideration. I'm going to throw that out there for debate amongst the KBF, club membership. But I'm still very solo motor right now. And it's ironic because I was the first pro motor guy. So now I'm the whoa, 1 motor when a lot of people want from.
Well, like you said, it's such a big safety issue too. So because there's so few kayaks that can actually handle 2 motors.
Right.
Just from a weight capacity standpoint too, along with the batteries that you got to put on it.
There's like 6 total.
Yeah.
Hundreds of models.
There's 6 kayaks out of hundreds of models. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's 6 that I would feel confident saying
that can handle it. Yeah.
Can handle 2 motors.
All right. So the purpose, what I'm hearing though from people is the purpose is I want to get somewhere fast, and then I want to use my spot lock so I can stay on a spot.
Yeah, I know the arguments. I hear them every
day.
But
here's what I'm saying though, Chad. But now when you add more things to your kayak, which we've done here, is that more of a chance for a breakdown and ruining your fishing day? Or on the other hand, if you're a guy who can paddle and you have a kayak that you can paddle around, even if you had the breakdown, like for instance, I have a Hobie Outback. I can still pedal. I can still paddle if my motor goes I'm far away. Yeah. But if a guy's in a bigger kayak, can he get back?
Yes.
So
Everybody that's trying to convince me from another angle is calling me saying, "Hey, man, before I make my kayak purchasing decision, I want to know, are you changing the rule anytime soon? Because if you are, I'm really thinking about that XTR." And I know that they're thinking, man, if we tell Chad we're going to buy the boat from his sponsor, that's really going to twist his arm. And now he's going to be more inclined. And I know there's the perception out there that somehow money like influences my decisions, but it doesn't.
Mhm.
And to be honest with you, it's actually kind of the other way around. I have to be very sensitive to the fact that I don't want it to look like we're trying to incentivize people to only purchase the bigger
Mhm.
XTR or Titan X or Pro Angler, or Sportsman from Old Town, or you know, and then there's some boats out there that, in my opinion, have the label of being able to do it that are grossly overrated, that are probably the biggest ticking time bombs in the sport if you decide to do it, even though that manufacturer makes it feel like you probably could or even should in some cases. And to me, that's where we're on the slippery slope. Because if a company says, yeah, you can totally do it. I mean, shit, I'll stop being evasive. There's a couple out there. There's one out there in particular that I'll just call out, and you can hate me if you want to. You can clip this and send it to the group, and you can all come with your pitchforks and knives. The Jackson Nar is the most dangerous fishing kayak on the market to double motor. I've been in it. I've tried it. You know, you're not going to be 150 pounds and blow my text up after this and go, dude, I've got two motors on the Jackson R and it's perfect. Okay, fine. But for the average person, there it's more likely to be overloaded. And I think that boat has got the least accurate rating. However, the Jackson Big Rig is probably one of the boats that could be most likely to be um, dual motored. So I'm not saying that Jackson doesn't have
And
one. The
and
Take Two,
that's not bad to say, Chad. That's being honest of your
I
experience.
understand that, but I'm just saying I see a lot of banter out there where there's outfitting of the Jackson R with a back motor and a front motor, and now I'm seeing more and more people saying this boat is awesome for two motors. It is not. It is not. If you're over 200 pounds and an ounce, and you're putting even the lightest bow mount and the lightest stern mount and the least amount of battery you need to, you're flirting with disaster with that boat. The Jackson Big Rig, tons of capacity. I even think the Jackson Take Two has enough capacity to. It was in the six that I was naming, but I don't think that the NAR does. And then the problem is, like certain boats are not proportionately volume capable, meaning they could do one versus the other, but I don't think they can do both. And if you're not savvy enough to put the motors on both ends and then balance the weight, including yourself, you're going to end up in a world of hurt. You're going to end up in the water. You're going to end up on the news. And that's the part I'm worried about, more so than the part about the money or the sponsorships or all of that other stuff. But you also do have to think about the fact that there is a propensity to alienate a vast majority of potential competitors and people in the industry if you make it to where you have to have, or even the perception that you have to have these bigger watercraft to even be competitive is the standard, right? And so, yeah.
Okay, speaking of news, Chad, something came out in the news today that you shared with me. Should I share that now that came out?
All right, so listen, here's what I want to say about that before you share this.
Okay, all right.
When we compete for the Yakoff Awards, I'm a big fan of the Yakoff concept. When Keith called me about it,
Uh-huh.
I was like, heck yeah, dude, I'm all in. I didn't even know he wanted me to be in it. I was going to be waving the flag. I
Yeah.
think the platform that Kayak Angler has now with the new ownership and our ability to show them what the kayak fishing community does means that you guys should vote every day in the Yakoff Awards, whether you vote for me or you vote for Jake or you alternate or whatever. But if I am going to win and continue to go on, I want to win on the merit. So I don't want you guys voting against Jake. Even when you see this picture that's about to come up, I don't want you voting against Jake unless you're
Jake,
truly,
Jake is like, what the are you talking
unless
about?
you're truly voting for me. Don't vote against Jake. There's a few things in his past that we're going to talk about tonight, and then there's one more recent one. And so,
The only reason we got that picture, right, was his grandma sent it. I think it was his grandma.
Well, yeah, Jake, you didn't realize you were part of something super
somebody
big.
texted it to me anonymously,
Yeah.
and with it being this big of a deal, and it eventually going to come out, I just want to make sure you guys understand. I'm doing this for the sport, not to.
It wasn't like Robert English kicking a puppy.
Exactly.
No.
So anyway,
no.
so without further ado, there's a couple things.
Yeah.
First one we'll talk about with this new captain, Brock, that's going viral.
Yeah.
The Brock Horton down in Florida for boarding that kid's boat. Maybe you guys didn't know this, but
Dick is super scared right now.
Marty, if you could go ahead and bring this
I
picture
just
up,
have no idea what this is.
Well,
kind of
Jake, have you taken any? Have you done some trips lately that we don't know about?
I don't think lately.
All right. Well,
There was a few with his high school basketball team.
That's probably what I would say too, to be honest with you, if I was in the scenario with.
Jake is like, "What the are you?"
And when people sent me this picture, it's kind of like when people call out people for cheating. You're kind of duty bound to say something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Chad, I get what you're saying. Like, I'm the one who received it, and it was like, "Wow, is this true, Chad?" And you're like, "Yeah, it is. I've heard."
Marty, you want me to just bring it up on my phone?
I got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So listen, I truly believe, and I'll show you the original photo because that one's like a little bit whitewashed. So this is that boat with Captain Brock on it, and I don't want you guys to hold it against Jake that he was one of the guys that stood there and didn't say anything. And more,
just showed off.
Jake, that your bass you caught that day?
More importantly, he's fishing while the guy's damn threatening this kid's life, and he's actually holding bass up, trying to go viral.
Like, yeah, but look at me.
I mean, so again,
right by the pillars.
Whether you like the fact that he stood there and didn't say nothing to that guy or not, don't vote for me because of that. Okay. Personally, that captain was responsible for his own actions, and I really don't think Jake should have said anything. And then
but one thing in Jake's favor, look how bright he looks.
Exactly.
But
do I still have hair in that picture?
He's trying to steal that guy's shine, is what it is.
But look what I caught. Yeah, look what I caught. Nobody said anything about Jake catching those bass on that boat. That's what's funny.
Exactly. Yeah. Kind of got swept under the rug. And he caught him in saltwater.
Now tell me
what it was when Chad called me and told me about this. I was like, "Oh my god, are those largemouth in saltwater?"
Now even when he got taken in, he still had those fish. Just a second here.
I mean, and then when captain,
let me get to it here.
This is a more isolated incident, and this one didn't make the news like it maybe should have. And I'll tell you why. Guys. All right. So this picture right here is the official mugshot, right? And here's what happened. It was brought to my attention that in one of our tournaments that Jake was putting weight in his fish. Right? Guys, I'm like, dude, we fish CPR. It doesn't freaking matter. So again, I don't think it had an impact on the competitive outcome. So therefore, I just think you shouldn't. I mean, dude, it's a great shot.
First of all, Chad,
how
hold on.
Is it?
It's not dude. It's bro. It's not dude. It's bro.
It's bro. But how gangster is it that he carried the fish with him into the police department and held him up for the mugshot? You know what I'm saying? That's gangster.
I didn't have a cameraman with me. Somebody had to take the picture.
Last but not least, I also don't want you guys, again, I want you to vote for me because you think I should win. I don't want you to vote for me.
Just because he's a criminal.
Because not a criminal, skirting the edge. Again, it was nothing he wasn't duty bound to say anything to that captain. Those weights inside the fish didn't have any impact on the length. In fact, they might have hurt him a little bit. And then the last one, and again, again, this is one of those things where I feel like
Oh man.
I feel like he was doing the right thing. Just because he was the guy that called Bass and turned Scott Martin in, you shouldn't hold that against him either. All right. So
That's
again,
awesome.
judge our kayaks based on the merit of our kayaks, not the character of the person. Okay.
Boy, Chad, you have opened yourself up to Jake's going to get you back. He's going to get you back.
Hey, ding
Oh,
ding.
That's
man.
awesome.
Ding
Jake,
ding.
I literally got those 2 minutes. What, Marty? 2 minutes before we jumped on?
Yeah. I was
Yeah,
like,
I was
that's
like,
so funny.
what the hell
when
is
I
he
got
talking
him,
about?
I go, I don't even want to start talking about this.
Yeah, so
And then
Chad,
you said,
I
take
called
a look.
Marty and I'm like, Marty, did you get those pictures from Chad? Isn't that funny? He goes, no, I don't like drama. I don't agree with that. I'm like, did you look at the pictures? Chad doctored him out. Like, that's Jake. He's like, oh shit, that's Jake. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Now it's funny.
Yeah. He said,
It was
"Oh,
so
hold on.
funny.
Let me tell you what Marty said." He said,
I,
"Oh, hold on."
I said, oh,
I
man,
don't.
I gave him the
He
big
texted me and
eyeball.
said, I don't like drama.
I don't like drama.
He said, "Oh,
And I gave him 2 big eyeballs.
oh man." That's what he said.
Oh, man.
Oh man, with like the the face with the eyes with no.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
It's like, oh man. Like, yeah, that was it. So, Jake, I was kind of like defending you in a way, like I didn't. So,
That's
anyway.
all right. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about the KBBT from COVID.
Yeah.
Somehow, everybody just likes to throw me in the Photoshop.
Oh, yeah.
Because remember, he
Yeah.
kept doing the thing where he like cut my head off.
You remember that, Chad?
What's that?
Conrad Benetti.
Oh
He
yeah,
had-
yeah,
He had
yeah,
I go, what in the world?
yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. He did that to you.
Yeah.
But
I
you
just
beat
got a
him,
face
didn't
for
you?
Photoshop, I guess. I don't know.
Conrad, that guy's a trip fishing in like dress like slacks and penny loafers and stuff. Like what?
He's he would be on the cover of GQ magazine? What's that guy's
Yeah.
magazine?
Gentleman's
GQ.
Quarterly.
Yeah, gentleman's. He's the cover boy, or poster child for that magazine.
When the first time somebody said, "Have you heard of Conrad?" Right, Benetti. I said, "No." They said, "Dude, go check out his Facebook page." I'm just going to say this, and again, I'm not throwing shade. I'm just saying, if there was a selfie king of kayak fishing, it would be that guy. He
Yep.
has got more selfie pictures on his profile than any chick I've ever seen. It's crazy.
Okay, here we got to change the subject. Todd Patrick, and Todd was part of the KBT.
Yeah.
Big part of it, and he did a good job with that. So, what's the best kayak in the market? He's asking. I'll be getting back in the scene. There you go, guys. What's the
It's a
best?
loaded question. That's a
Yeah.
loaded question.
Survive Shearwater.
The Shearwater. Okay, I'm going to tell him, Todd, you got to get in the Smalley.
Marty, we already had this on the other podcast with
We did.
aggressively average anglers. Remember, we each picked our favorite.
Yeah.
I just
We
got
run that podcast.
Todd is a fellow big dude. So as a big dude, he probably should be looking more bona fide PWR or XTR.
129. Yeah.
The XTR is a monster, man. That thing is like a.
Or the unlimited would be
Man,
a good
I
boat
saw
for.
one of the XTRs in person for the first time a couple weeks ago, and it looks so much bigger on in pictures than it does in person.
Well, we did that.
You know
We
what
did
I
that.
would say. I was sorry. I was just going to say what I would say. If you're in the market for getting a new kayak and you don't know what to get, go to a place like Dugout or a place like that where you can hop on the water and test a bunch of different ones out and see what feels good to you, because it depends what you want to do with it and how you're going to use it. And we can't tell you what's best for you. That's like me telling you what kind of shoe is best for your foot just because you're a size 13.
Yeah,
It doesn't work. It doesn't work like that.
Okay, real quick. Jake, one thing in your kayak, the favorite thing about your kayak that you've added to your build that you feel is a necessity and that it's something that gives you an advantage when you're fishing. What is it?
Mine's got to be my motor. So I've got the Motor Guide XI3 with spot
Okay.
lock, and I mean, kind of going back to talking about, we can't tell anybody what's best for them, and it's like
Right.
telling someone what
Right.
shoe to wear. I'm not winning any races with the Motor Guide XI3, but I trade off the speed for the GPS and the spot lock because
Okay.
I've always liked trying to fish more offshore, and before before motors were as popular, I think a lot of kayak fishermen liked beating the bank or liked finding like specific
Mhm.
lines to fish their way up. So I tried to always set myself apart by
Mhm.
finding structure, finding brush piles, finding stuff offshore to fish,
Mhm.
and the spot lock always helped me do that a lot better.
Mhm.
Even with a pedal drive or just paddling, it's really hard to hold your position. So
Mhm.
definitely the motor.
Okay. What about you, Chad?
Probably the same. I have the other than my electronics, which help you do all that offshore stuff that Jake is talking about.
Mhm. Mhm.
If you are fishing against me, and you have a bow mount, and I have my motor, I'm probably gonna have a limit before you get to where I'm fishing, and I can hold spot lock with the anchor wizard by just dropping that joker, and then I've got speed, I've got spot lock, and I'm not taking anything away from or arguing with Jake's assessment because my son Austin, Gene Jensen, a lot of these guys run bow mount motors. Um, I just feel like when that motor's constantly running and you can only cast so far, you're not getting far enough away from that fish that they're not aware of the fact that that motor's there.
Mhm.
And so for some of your bigger fish, and I'm not talking about a big tournament fish where, we're talking about a 20 to 22 incher. I'm talking about like big fish. Those bigger fish, I think, are going to be more wary of that motor, turning on and off with the spot lock.
Mhm.
For me, I like to use the stern mounted motor. I can also sort of set it, and if there's any current or wind, I can just sit there with my feet and I can kind of hold position.
Mhm.
If I really want to hold position, I drop that anchor off the front, and I have to contend with the anchor line, obviously, but
Mhm.
you also have to contend with the bow mount with a spinning prop on it if you're fighting a fish. So to me,
Mhm.
it's probably just the same thing backwards. I just like the fact that I can get to the spot, I can cover more water, I can cruise, and I also like the fact that the stern mount is actually, in many cases, truly hands free. I have argued this from the beginning with pedal drive people. Hands free fishing. Bro, you touch your rudder handle more than I touch my
Yeah. Right. Right.
not literally my first YouTube video ever was me and Marty Mood, him talking about his pedal drive and why I didn't want it. And what a lot of people, and I've heard people over the years are like, oh yeah, you're just mad because you can't get on the Hobie team. I'm like, trust me, bro. If they put you on the Hobie team, I could be on the Hobie team. But secondly, I was actually offered the first Hobie pro staff position right at the same time Marty Mood was. And I just wasn't my style of fishing. You know what I'm saying? But I always thought it was funny when they say hands-free fishing, and even in the marketing, they're constantly sitting there jacking with the rudder.
Mhm.
But with a with a stern motor, I'm a big electronics guy, but I haven't become as big of a forward-facing sonar guy yet. My son Austin has kind of really dialed it in.
Mhm.
But as a structure scan guy, which has been my forte for whatever
Mhm.
level of offshore fishing that I have, being
Mhm.
able to kind of just drive along and kind of looking for stuff and motoring and not have to jack around with the remote to where if I see something, I can hit the waypoint. I can then double check on structure scan. I can mow the grass, right? I can go around. So a lot of times I'm actually cruising around, getting the lay of the land before I formulate my plan. And then I'll figure out my plan of attack and then I'll ease in, anchor the boat, and then I don't have to mess with anything. I don't have to mess with the remote. I don't have to mess with spot lock. I don't have to mess with,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? So to me, that's kind of the way I like to do it is I like the speed, but more than the speed, I like the slow control of being able to go over and cruise around and check stuff out.
Mhm.
And I like the fact that the motor is behind my transducer, so I never get any type of turbulent interference or anything. I get the cleanest possible signal that I can. Now, again, you're not really moving as much using forward facing sonar and that kind of stuff. But I really like the fact with the stern mount too, I can go through vegetation and shallow water better than you can with a bow mount. And I also like the fact that I can pull it up and lock it, and now I'm just paddling again and I'm fishing. And so, and it could just be that I had 12 or 15 years of stern mount motor experience before anybody put a bow mount motor, or there was really even a bow mountable motor that was advantageous to putting on a kayak, right? Because before you had to have like that swing lock mechanism, and you just didn't have room for that on the kayak. And so when they started coming up with the ones that came up through the shaft and folded over, they started to be able to be adapted to kayaks. But I was motorizing mine before that, and so I think it just kind of developed my way of fishing, if that makes sense. Now, I will
Nah,
be.
see, I used to do a lot like you did with the side scan. I mean, before forward facing sonar, and then you just do the mow the lawn like you called it. But I feel like the forward facing sonar has taken away the need to do that as much.
Yeah.
Where instead of mowing the lawn to find the brush piles on a point, you can pull up and just start scoping around, and it's a
You're not
lot
wrong.
easier to find them.
You're not wrong. But one of the things that I am playing around with is I've taken a Torpedo mount, a service unit that they gave me, took the guts and the motor out of it, mounting my transducer to the front of it, putting a Torpedo mount on backwards, putting it off the front of the boat. Now I can have that motor mount connected to my pedal drive. I crisscross the cables where when I go right, it aims right. Now I can drive around with my stern mounted motor with my forward facing sonar transducer in perspective mode, scoping, to find the fish. And then I'm not so much trying to catch the fish on forward facing sonar, just know that I'm casting to productive waters and not wasting. And on scouting days, just going out and scouting and going, okay, they're on east facing banks, halfway down the point in 8 foot of water. Now go pull out your mapping, use your contrast, your shading, and go places like that, create a milk run and go check those spots and go, okay, sweet. I have fish in 5 different places under the same conditions. That's a pattern for fish location. Now I've got to develop the pattern for what they're going to be eating. And when you put those two things together, you've got the recipe for success. And so I agree, though, with what Jake just said. It really does cut down on the amount of, and I hate to say this because I'm not getting into the old guy debate, it actually cuts down on some of the electronic skill that you used to need. I mean, I used to have to triangulate, go along, mark the spot, look at a thing on that bank, look at a thing on that bank, put it together, come back around, drive back over it again, confirm it with 2D sonar. Okay, that's definitely a brush pile. There's definitely fish on the east side of it. I'm going to swing back around and I'm going to throw a jig past it, scoot it in. I'm going to throw a crankbait above it, and then I'm going to, slow roll a spinnerbait through it. Now, you just pull up there and go, oh shit, look at him right there.
Yeah. Man, I used to bring a compass with me, like a handheld compass, and so when I pulled up to my waypoint, I would touch it on the screen, and then it would tell you like what degrees it was, and that's how I would find the waypoint, because I always struggled like finding something in the distance. Say, okay, I got to cast at that house on the bank.
Yeah.
I mean, that actually helped me out a lot when I did that.
Well,
I haven't used a buoy since I started using forward-facing sonar, because I used to use a lot of buoys. I would go over something, I'd come back along, and as soon as it came through my graph, I had a 5-second rule. Cast it, go 5, and then I knew I could cast and come past it. Yeah, I don't even use buoys anymore. You can just use an electronic buoy, or you can just pull up there and go, oh, there they are.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, Chad, like the last month, what I've done is just practice total forward-facing sonar, and I got it dialed in, man.
Yeah.
It is. Now, do I like doing it? No, because I'd rather look around. I don't like staring at the screen all day.
You know what I like about it? I like the information gathering aspect of it. What I found myself doing in the winter before I got sick is I found myself going out with lures with no hooks on them and getting them to react to it, and then getting them to eat it and going, okay, cool. And like shake them off and then do it again and see if I could duplicate it without affecting the school by catching 4 or 5 of them, just to see what they would do. And I can tell you this, after 40 plus years of fishing,
Mm-hmm.
20 plus years of aggressively using better electronics and better every year, better and better electronics,
Mm-hmm.
I still can't believe how many pelagic largemouth there are. And that was something that those fish they weren't uncatchable, because if you knew they were there, they would be catchable. But they were uncatchable because common knowledge and common wisdom is, once they got out to deeper water, they were on the bottom. And
Mm-hmm.
once they got out to the deeper water on the bottom, they were structure oriented. And once they got out on the water, you got to find a brush pile, a road bed, a rock pile, a wall, a house foundation, all of these things. That is just not the case.
Mm-hmm.
There's big bitches out there in 60 feet of water
Yeah.
that are in 20 feet of water.
Yeah.
They're not oriented to the thermocline.
Right.
They're not trying to find more comfortable water temperature. They're just out there getting away from pressure.
Yep. Yep. Just roaming around.
Yeah.
And I took some video last week of doing this, and I was catching largemouth in 35 feet of water that were 15 feet down, just roaming around. And
But contrary to public opinion,
Uh-huh.
I actually think, instead of it being where, oh, those fish can never be safe and all that, I actually think that forward-facing sonar is going to distribute the pressure around the fishery better.
Yeah.
The bank fishing is going to come back being better because those fish aren't going to get molested and harassed as much as they did before.
Mm-hmm.
And I also believe that the fish that you catch on forward-facing sonar are they have a higher probability of survival because you're catching them from deeper, cooler water than you are catching and stressing fish that are in shallow water that's less oxygenated, that overstresses. And by and large, people are fishing for these bigger fish on lighter line and lighter tackle, and basically putting less stress on the fish when they're, or you could say prolonged light pressure is more stressful. The science goes both ways on it.
Oh, well, you're not ripping their jaw off.
Right. But what I can also tell you is they're not getting boat flipped as much. They're not getting drug around as much. They're not getting, and to me, I really firmly believe that it'll be one of those things that'll kind of self-regulate. When forward-facing sonar first came out, it really wasn't forward-facing sonar. It was down-facing sonar for crappie fishing. But they started tilting it further and further forward. Mm-hmm. What's kind of funny is, if I wasn't a dumbass, I could have invented forward-facing sonar 20 years ago, because I actually took a crappie jig, a flounder gigging pole, which is this pole that you hold with a T on it with a light, and you go along in shallow water, kind of waving your wrist back and forth to shine the light so you can gig flounder. I put a transducer on one of those 21 years ago so that I could come up to boat docks and I could stick it in the water in my kayak. Back when we sit down on the kayak, I would lay this thing between my legs, and I'd come up to boat docks and I would just hold it out like a wand and go back and forth. And then I'd go down about 5 degrees and go back and forth, and I'd go down and then I could figure out where the fish were on the piling. Then I put that thing between my legs and start fishing. Technically, that was 2D sonar that I was using as forward-facing sonar. I just wasn't smart enough to go, damn, let me put this on a transducer pole and aim it. I still think today I'm more interested in what I learned from watching them on forward-facing sonar, and then turn around and present to those fish, than I am finding the lure on the screen and trying to watch the fish every single time I catch one, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Keith. Keith's got his hand up.
Oh, sorry, I just had a question. I thought that would be a good way to get Marty's attention as a principal.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were doing your Statue of Liberty imitation and campaigning to be the 51st state again.
Yeah. No. What I love about all of this is, so I am basically the guy that invented or created these Yakoff awards, right?
Right.
we have all this stuff going on every week. It's all about basically largemouth bass fishing, maybe a little bit of smallmouth. That's about it.
Okay.
What the awesome part about the kayak fishing world is that I see every day, on top of everything that you guys just talked about, like nonstop, it was very hard for me to hold my tongue and say anything because everything you're talking about, forward facing, this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
There are so many other species of fish that other people fish for
Yeah.
that the kayak world is going to expand to
Yeah.
and blow up, like to bring it to everybody else.
Mhm.
Nobody ever. It's always about largemouth bass fishing in Southeast U.S. That's pretty much what everyone talks about.
But
I
here's the
cannot
deal.
wait. I cannot wait to get a couple of you up here, up onto Vancouver Island, kayak fish for some salmon and halibut and trout fish and do different things. There's a whole other world out there that is going to blow up just as much as what you guys talk about all the time.
Right.
And I think it's amazing that there's that massive opportunity out there for kayak fishing.
There is.
That is not so narrow just to catching green fish.
And remember too, Keith, it may look like that here, but I know for me personally, I fished for a lot of other things as well. It's just that bass seems to be the most competitive thing there is.
No, of course it is. But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's so many opportunities to make it more competitive on every other level.
Yeah.
Like the guys like Jim Sammons or whoever used to back in the day.
Yeah.
Like, but you go the guys in the Hawaii tournaments that go blue marlin fishing. Like, there's so many things we can do in our kayaks that have so many different opportunities. And every time it gets into this like largemouth bass competition, which is awesome because there's so many other species out there that can do that. But right now the money is in that.
We started in saltwater.
Yeah, that's where the money is.
The first catch
100%.
photo tournaments were saltwater. That was 100%.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Bass is just the most lucrative, the most widely distributed species,
exactly.
most pursued. So it naturally is going to have more.
But it's also, as a Canadian, it's the most Americanized fish in the world by far.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's what everyone goes after. That's what it is. And that's like the Bassmasters, like everything. It's that. Every conversation I get involved with, it's awesome because it's so dialed in. There's so much potential within the bass fishing market, but there's so many other markets out there that we can bring kayak fishing to, which is awesome. When people start getting a little bit outside their comfort zone and doing other things. Like we're talking with people in Europe and Asia, and there's so many cool things going on. I love hearing all of this development. It's awesome.
One of the points I started to make was talking about in forward-facing sonar. Originally, we were pretty hardcore into crappie. That was the fish that was pursued with it the hardest.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing about crappie fishing, though, is crappie is or for those of you that say crappie, is a culture.
That's the Canadian version.
It's a culture of consumption. You catch that fish and you put it in a cooler. The problem with, or the thing that I see that's going to happen with bass fishing is when we're fishing blind or blinder, we catch a fish or we catch a couple and we release them. They go back to their school. We don't stay on that school as much as we do with forward-facing sonar. So with forward-facing sonar, you catch that fish, you release it. I'll follow with the damn fish back to the school. I'll let it go in front of the transducer and follow that summit back to the school. Now I know where the school is, right? So, or you just go pan around and you're like, oh, there's the school again. So what happens is then you catch another fish. Then you catch another fish. Whereas with the school of crappie, if you pull up on them, a school of crappie looks like a Christmas tree on a graph. Okay.
Yep.
You start catching them, but you put them back in the cooler or you keep them. You don't let them go and they go back to the school so that the next time they feel that frequency of forward-facing sonar, they don't go, oh, shit, I remember the last time I felt that. And let's go, guys. And they all take off. That's happening with bass. we are going to have a very educated population of bass. And here's what I'll tell you. In 3 years of fishing Kentucky Lake with a couple of crappie guides for filming, they were buddies of mine, whatever. The crappie got to the point where you would pull up on them and turn on forward facing sonar. Half the school would, from what was on there, would be gone like that.
It was like a Clark Griswold tree.
Yeah, they would just be gone. And it wouldn't be
Yeah.
like the top half was gone or the bottom or the edges. It was a distribution throughout the school. You could just tell it wasn't as thick or dense anymore. The fish started following the jigs way up. You started playing around. They put tip them with minnows and they still wouldn't eat them. Turn the graph off, drop to that same spot and start catching fish. So I almost believe that to a certain extent, the whole forward-facing sonar's impact on fishing is going to take care of itself, because it's going to get to the point where you point a forward-facing sonar at a school of bass and they're going to haul ass like a bunch of scalded dogs because they've been scalded with a hook in their face before. I don't think it's going to happen in a year, but you've got a year group of fish that live on a lake that's a heavily pressured lake, and they get caught 3, 4, 5 times, and they put that together, and then you've got a whole school where anytime that scope sweeps over them, only one of them has to recognize it and say, "Let's get the hell out of here, guys," and they take off and they take the school with them. It's going to happen. I'll tell you the species that I'm the most worried about, if you want to call it worried about, when it comes to forward-facing sonar, is muskie. I think a muskie is a sitting duck with forward-facing sonar because they are safer in the deeper water. They're that fish of 1,000 casts. You got to get the right cast in the right location at the right time. You got to get it in front of them. You got to work that big sumbitch, and by the time you do, you're damn near exhausted. Well, now you can find it, you can see it, you can put the lure in front of it.
I don't agree, man. I fished muskie and pike in Lake of the Woods
You
my
can get
entire life growing up.
your reaction to them.
You're not going to know if it's a pike. You're not going to know if it's a pike or a muskie. First of all.
Oh, bullshit! There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Because
Why?
I'm not talking about in Canada where the pike get as big as muskie. I'm talking about in places in the U.S. and the Midwest and the Great Lakes.
Okay.
You're going to
my biggest pike is 54 inches, so that's a big pike.
100%. We just don't get pike that big.
Like Tennessee.
Yeah, we don't have tariffs on fish up here. So
Tennessee, Kentucky, places that have these sleeper, unbelievable muskie fisheries. Those places you can really, even like Green Bay, for example. There's guys that are really starting to dial in these muskie on forward-facing sonar, and those fish, they just can't handle getting caught 5 or 6 times.
No, not at all.
So, and they're 30 years old. You know what I'm saying? That's the other part. That's like,
that's what I'm saying. Like in Lake of the Woods on northwestern Ontario, those places just north of there, we catch 50-inch pike as well.
Oh yeah.
So you're not going to see them different.
Yeah, when I went up to Saskatchewan, we caught tons of upper 40s pike.
100%.
That's bigger than some of the muskie in the United States. You know what I mean?
I could take you to some places up there that.
Yeah. But I truly believe the fish that is the most vulnerable to it, in my opinion, that is a fish that's harder to catch, that this is going to make easier, that could potentially impact it, is going to be muskie. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. For few and far between, right? If you can differentiate. Yeah.
Or if you get a few really good, already good muskie guys to get dialed in on the forward-facing sonar, they can get real lethal, real fast with it. And, bass replenish themselves pretty quickly. Big-ass muskie don't.
Right.
No way. Like a long time.
I know we've had some people kind of dropping off. We must be getting how late is it?
9:30?
7:30. We've been on for an hour and a half, or 9:30 your time.
I do want to tell people, hey, don't forget to vote. Number one. Number two is, both these guys have some incredible builds. Take a look at their videos. Take a look at their pictures there. Chad Hoover, of course, is a legend in kayak fishing. Jake Suvak's been around and has put together a really cool build with his Vibe kayak. And then, of course, Chad has the Bonafide here. And whoever wins this will move into that Final Four against Ethan
Yeah.
Jett, right?
Yeah, this will be against Ethan Jett from Hobie.
Yeah, Hobie kayak. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, we've had an incredible conversation. Oh, Todd Patrick wants to know, Keith, maybe you can explain this about how to vote. I will take him through it too here, but my mouse is broken here, so I can't.
Well, if you can hear me there, Todd, just go to kayakanglermag.com/Yakoff-awards and go every day, man. You should be doing this already. You could have been building that up. You can win in Canadian dollars, about a $10,000 kayak. In US dollars, about $3,400.
Vote now.
Marty can walk you through it.
Yeah, and so you can vote there, Jake or Chad. Put your email, first and last name, and then when you enter,
scroll back up, Marty, and show them, if Todd hasn't seen it yet, how he can see the video and.
There's video there at the top, and you can see a video in each kayak, and then their pictures that they put in, their sponsor, their rigging that they've used, and where you can get it. And then you have a chance, Todd, at winning $3,400 package with the kayak, the motor, the battery, the light kit, and the little cart. And it takes like 2 seconds to do this, And then, of course, we have always sponsors here as well. So pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool. It's been talked about a lot of places.
It's been really good. Todd Hamill from Wired to Fish was down at the Bassmaster Classic and said people were talking about the Yakoff, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
And so listen, guys, for our sport, whether you vote for me or you vote for Jake or you vote for both of us, this is an opportunity to show a major media company what we bring to the table so that they continue to invest in it. So vote every day, vote multiple times. Don't hold it against Jake that he didn't push Brock off of the boat, or the fact that he put those weight in those fish. It didn't affect the outcome. I just want you guys to understand that. It was a catch, floater, release tournament. I better stop because I did the XD.
Somebody's gonna believe you.
I did the XD 160 and people believed me. I couldn't believe. I'm like what?
Before we hang up, we need the fisticuffs between you two.
He's got to get a screenshot.
Yeah, so is this you guys got to do making those photos, or
so one thing I can tell you is that I did do I have done a couple updates. I will be posting those updates on social media. I'll be adding them to my page. Got rid of the pod, added the catch trapdoor. I replaced the standard steering with the new Wizard steering, and I'm working on the bow mounted, foot controlled, forward facing sonar mount on my PWR. So,
sweet. So Jake, just so Jake and Chad, you guys know, like I said, anything you want to update this week, it'll be up the next day. You got till Sunday to move on to the final. There's a cash prize. There's a bunch of stuff in our summer issue. Build your legacy. Let's go. And now let me see some fisticuffs so I can take a screenshot.
You got this
wrong way. Chad's right. Jake's wrong. Yeah, that way.
Jake, I don't know.
There we go.
Chad, you got it.
Jake, you look a little smaller. You got to come closer to the camera, I think.
Hey, Chad,
a little bit lower.
Chad, stay out of his boat.
That looks good. Jake, a little bit lower. A little bit lower and fist closer. Chad looks fucking mean.
All right, hold on.
All right, we just got taken off Facebook.
Yeah. Okay, lean forward.
There we
go. There we go.
Oh, that's
beauty. All right, I got it.
Cool.
We could take that screenshot. Cool. We could take that screenshot and put it out there that we had another one of those boat incidents.
That looked really cool for sure.
I got a screenshot. I'm gonna recrop that into the in the Captain Brock video to show.
There you go.
You can actually, Jake.
This one might end up on social media. This one might end up on social media.
Jake, you can use that to recruit students for the NCAA.
Yeah, you think that'll help?
Yeah,
there you go.
Sweet.
Yeah, I mean,
all right.
I mean, come on, dude.
Gosh.
That's so funny.
You're so close to him. You're so close to him, Jake. You could have just said, "Dude, calm down." but you're more
You're
interested.
like, I can't.
I was trying to push him into the water. I don't know.
I
You're
got mad respect for the fact that while that was all going down, you were catching bass. Everybody else was
yeah.
out of viral.
And
I was
saltwater.
gonna say you shouldn't take freshwater fish that far out offshore.
Catching bass behind bridge pilings in Port Charlotte Harbor. That's
That forward-facing sonar help you find
That's
them.
awesome.
exactly.
All right.
This is the one I started with, so that it was so obviously ridiculous that it didn't even make any sense. But I kind of like smoothed it out where it looked a little bit more plausible. But this is the original.
Oh, and Marty did call me and say I don't want to cause.
I didn't want it.
Yeah. So for what it's worth, this was the photo Marty thought was real. Where
Yeah.
I did.
Oh, God.
I did.
Jake is glowing like a diamond in a billy goat's ass, and Marty's like, "Oh
I
man."
I didn't even. It went over my head. Like I'm like, what in the world?
He
Honestly,
called.
That's the best part of it.
Yeah.
Chad, he called me. He's like, I don't want to cause drama. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's funny. No, it's not funny. It's a real thing. Like, no. He's like, oh my God, it's Jake. I'm like, yeah.
Then I was laughing.
Yeah, then he was
I
laughing.
wasn't laughing. I was like,
When he first responded, oh man, I thought, oh shoot, he thinks this is real. You know what? I'm just gonna leave it and let him.
Yeah, you got me. You got me, Chad. Good. You got me good.
Yeah.
It was like,
Yeah.
I did do a fake thumbnail for like a YouTube video that said Jake Suvak dimes out Scott Martin and all that kind of stuff, but I'll wait for like Friday or Saturday with that one.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, Jake, Chad, update anything you want during the week. Let's go.
Appreciate it, man.
Awesome.
I mean,
Yes,
it's
have a great night. Thanks for having me, and good luck to you, Jake. And the one thing that I will say is, if whichever one of us win, we need to make sure that when we go into the round against Ethan, that we mention that our kayaks stay dry and they don't crack. Right, so that'll be our competitive advantage.
oh man,
shots fired.
Ethan, guys, Ethan went to bed an hour.
Starting already.
All right, man. Y'all have a great night.
All right.
All right. Have a good night. Thank you, guys.
I got to end the
All right,
broadcast.
guys. Thanks for watching.